Call the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Carter Huffman.
Here.
Modis Castillo.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
McDonough.
Here, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning.
Good morning.
First item is to approve the agenda for April 23rd, please.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Next item is to approve the minutes from April 16th, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Commissioner Reinhardt, you have the administrative items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move item 5, item 6, item 7, item 8, and that's it.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Next up is a policy item from the County Manager's Office, Ramsey County 2019 Strategic Plan. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, today's an exciting opportunity. I'm going to invite Policy and Plan Director Elizabeth Tolsman up to come and join us. She's going to present the final edition of the next 12-month Ramsey County Strategic Plan. We talked about this for the first time with the board after the Vision Mission Goals discussion back in our work session in January. Since that time, Elizabeth has been doing the work to take that feedback, guidance, advice, as well as cleaning up the plan and setting a stage moving forward. And today's an opportunity to walk that through with you.
Excellent. Welcome.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I am pleased to present to you Ramsey County's 2019 Strategic Plan. It was included in your board packet and will show it on the screen here, various chapters of the new plan. This plan is a result of executive team members, county leaders, policy analysts, and staff at all levels who came together in the last several weeks and months to literally write each chapter, wordsmith, review, meet within their service teams, but also across the service teams to put this together. I say this all the time, it's just not words on a paper. It's really uplifting the work that we're doing in the county to ensure that we're moving forward towards our vision, mission, and goals, not only internally, but in response to our community as well. This should all look familiar to you. As you may recall, we discussed these priorities at our strategic planning work session earlier this year. Before I go into details on each one of these priorities, I just want to highlight a few things and features of this year's plan that may be different from previous years. First of all, we went from 11 priorities to 8, and this is a result of us being more intentionally focused in our work, collaborating more across our service teams, and having joint accountability in all of our goals. In the past, we've had each departments or service teams kind of come up with a priority to coalesce it, and then we've been building from there. We've been partnering during that interim period, and now you're seeing this more of a county-wide priority for every one of us, and us partnering more intentionally and collaboratively. Second, and also as you may recall, we originally had 23 kind of initiatives or goals. We went down to 18, then to 13. Last year was 11, and now it's 8. So 8 is a good number. I hope people don't see the trend going down even more than that, but it's a good way to be focused and align our work. In fact, 5 of the 8 priorities have county-wide impact. As I alluded to earlier, you'll notice that each one of the service teams has a key responsibility in this. The strategic plan is very important. It sets the stage and the foundation for our county-wide strategic investments in our biennial budget and performance measurement process. And you will see these priorities and themes during your budget discussions later on this year. So if you look at the chapters, I'll just highlight, well, first of all, I want to talk about our service team structure. And the reason I want to highlight this is I'm actually going to call on our Workforce Solutions Director. She brought this up. I often share the story of how I came to the county, but it's really wonderful to hear our Workforce Solutions Director share when she saw this service team structure and she saw Workforce Solutions under EGCI, Economic Growth and Community Investment. She said, this is fabulous. I want to work for an organization where everybody's in the same room. in her previous role. She said, it'd be great to get public works, parks, and libraries because we all need to come together and talk. And so she shared this during our city managers joint meeting yesterday about how this service team structure mattered to her and was a key recruitment tool into coming into the county. So that was really cool. And also our city managers also noticed the service team structure, and they're very fascinated and interested by this as well. So I just want to highlight that we're fully operationalizing in this work. So you'll notice that in each chapter, you have your priority, the definition, why it's important, why it is a priority, how we build on previous work and lessons learned from that, and how we're ensuring that racial equity is applied. In past years, we've put how is racial equity is considered, so getting people thinking about racial equity. This year, we shifted it to how it's being applied, so how we're fully operationalizing racial equity in our work. What's also new this year is instead of a list of actions that we had in each chapter, we moved towards this chart. It's on page 14 and 15 of your strategic plan, and this is where I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail about these charts. But this is a really great two-pager for if you want to, go around the community, a tool of when people are saying, what are you focusing on? What is the county prioritizing? These 8 areas are what we're doing. We're holding us more accountable, and we're setting what outcomes we hope to achieve instead of just the actions, and how we know that we're successful. So we're setting benchmarks to ensure that we're staying on track on these priorities. So with that said, I just want to highlight a few things from each of these priorities. The first one is residents first, effective, efficient, and accessible operations. You've had several board workshops on this, that we spent a lot of this past year talking about our accessible service and delivery facilities. What's unique about this priority is what we learned from that assessment that we've done this past year, that it's not just about facilities, it's really more about service delivery and customer service. And so you see that being married and bridged together. So what was a past priority in 2018 is now being combined with this. You can't talk about facilities without customer service, and you can't talk about customer service without facilities, tools, and technology. And so you're now going to see us moving towards services and facilities being designed from the perspective of residents and our customers. This is going enterprise-wide. We've been utilizing modernization as a tool in our information and public records service team to help launch this. We're now going to have a residents first platform where every single service team will be expected to utilize this tool to ensure that we're meeting these objectives. We're also going to ensure that our residents have access to our services both online and in person to keep up with the trends of our community. The second priority is advancing racial and health equity. As you may recall, in the past year, we actually uplifted the word racial equity and combined it with health equity, because again, you can't talk about health without talking about racial equity. Vice versa, you can't talk about racial equity without looking at the health incomes. What we've done to restructure this year is we are building out an Office of Equity Engagement in our policy and planning team. We brought in the previous health equity officer, Maria Sarabia. She's now leading this work countywide. We just backfilled her position, so health and wellness will have an equivalent person, who I believe they're starting next Monday as well. So you'll see kind of double the energy, double the leadership, and more importantly, the intentionality in this work countywide. We're going to have a toolkit where people can access trainings and methods. There'll be a repository where people can access data so that when they're filling out their RBAs, they can have the tools that they need to ensure that they're filling out that section more intentionality. And most importantly, we're leading and growing an organizational culture that values and practices racial equity countywide. The next one is inclusive and effective, meaningful community engagement. Last Tuesday, you heard Lydia Girma talk about that, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. The biggest things I want to highlight is the community engagement master contract that the county board approved last week. This is great that we'll have a set of initial 11 vendors to directly work off of, where we can directly work with our community. We'll be doing another community information session in the next couple weeks to do the next round of master contracts. And again, this is for us to intentionally contract directly with our community, who knows our community best in various areas, and how we can provide services and engagement back towards the things that we're doing. And again, we'll have tools, repositories, and trainings countywide to ensure that our staff are equipped with the mindset to move this forward. Next is integrated approach to health, wellness, and justice. And the key area is we integrated the word wellness into this work. At our board strategic planning session early this year, the commissioners mentioned that you wanted to see mental health not just in the safety and justice world. And so we're very intentional about that. That is equally, if not in other areas, in health and wellness as well. And so what you were seeing here is us uplifting wellness. We had focused on emotional health, and now we're going to focus on all areas from mental health, emotional health, whatever it may be, and design a robust community engagement process in this work. When you have various entities from corrections, sheriffs, county attorney's office, to all of our departments in health and wellness, we have to be at a collaborative table to ensure that we're meeting intentional outcomes in this work, and it has to be driven by the community. And so you're going to see greater cross-county alignment, services, reform, and investment in this area. Next is advancing a holistic approach to strengthen youth and families. This was previously our youth continuum of care strategic priority. And, going to this next chart here. And the things that we're focusing on is you heard Nancy Lee, our Pritzker Fellow, come and talk about what she's doing with early childhood, 0 to 3, connecting county-served families with early childhood referral services. We want to partner with community in this aspect as well. You've heard in the past 18 months to 2 years that we've reduced out-of-home placement by 40%. We want to continue that trend is another focus area. And in other areas, we want to ensure that we're developing contracting opportunities for culturally specific services in this work as well. Keep in mind, our youth is defined as 0 to 24. We're still looking at that continuum. We're just being more intentional and strategic in our work. Next is comprehensive economic development to build prosperity. And the two key things here is we combined our previous priority of contracting with diverse businesses into this area. And we have 3 work groups going on right now where we have county-wide responsibility. The first one is our construction, workforce inclusion, and contracting. And as you know, we're creating a county-wide policy and goals for construction contracting to increase contract opportunities for diverse contractors. We're also going to start tracking construction workforce inclusion goals for all county projects, and we want to create a stronger career pathways into the construction industry. That work is being led by Joanna Berg, our Deputy County Manager with EGCI, and we have an intentional work team already moving along in that. Our next work group is around business inclusion, and that is to increase utilization of our certified small business enterprises and also to develop process improvements in our procurement process. That's being led by myself and our CFO, Lee Merkins. And finally, our third work group is around nonprofit contractors. We're starting to track nonprofits in our system, including our nonprofit spend. My understanding was we spend nearly $50 million on our contracts with nonprofits. We want to ensure that our contracts reflect our community. So we're actually starting to track that data as well. Those are the 3 intentional areas in this county-wide innovations in contracting and procurement. And finally, in this area, we're creating an economic development division plan. You heard from Carrie Collins, our economic development director, on this work. And this is really developing a vision and opportunities for future economic development programming, everything from workforce development, redevelopment, business retention, expansion, and attraction, infrastructure improvement and corridor planning, sustainability, resiliency, affordable housing, and innovation. The next one is stability starts with a place to call home. And this, again, focuses on our homeless population. I remember from our board workshop, Commissioner Ortega, you mentioned that we'll never solve this issue, and that's a fact. It's not just in Minnesota, it's nationally. It's never going to go away. But what can we do now or today in the next 2-3 years? And so we're being very intentional about reducing the number of individuals who exit our county programs and ensure that they don't become homeless again within 6 months. So we're realigning our resources, our staff, our services around this work. We're being very intentional with our stakeholders from the school district, the city, and the county to see if we can find year-round solutions for our families and kids, and so that they just don't have temporary solutions to homelessness or some key things that we can target. Stability with a place to start to call home doesn't just mean about homelessness. It's not just about the bottom ring of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's also about housing affordability. And earlier this year, you guys had a board work discussion around this issue. We looked at data, trends, definition, what it means. And my understanding is we had consensus that we need to wrap around a future direction on ensuring that the communities, the supply, and our processes and criteria in terms of any funding or opportunities to provide has that criteria of affordable housing in it. So again, it's getting people up the rings of the ladder of stability. The very last one is our talent attraction, retention, and promotion. Just last Tuesday, you guys heard part 2 of our workforce statistics report. You heard a lot about data about our community and the direction that we're headed. Karen Francois and I are leading the very first theme of defining a Ramsey county-wide culture. We've developed values for our organization. We shared that at our county-wide leadership team meeting a couple weeks ago. Human Resources is leading, being a strategic partner with our service teams. You'll see some more intentional strategic movement in that area in terms of building a service-oriented human resources department that's more strategic and less transactional. And finally, we are modernizing our personnel rules, job classifications, and compensation plan. We haven't done this in, 20 plus years, and Joanna Berg and Scott Williams is helping lead that work. So you see the executive sponsorship, the leadership at all levels, ensuring that this work is really important. Finally, we also have a chart that states what we've done in our past years. So these are investments that the county board has made in our past priorities, and want to give you a key updates. Again, as I mentioned, a lot of these have been combined or intertwined with our current priorities to get it down from 11.8, but it also shows that we're doing some great things with our communications, our open data portal, and our risk management process that you have invested in. So we don't want to overlook that. The last thing I want to end with is I shared at the county-wide leadership team meeting before 200 seniors and managers that I absolutely love how the county board can recite our goals. I hear you guys talk about it all the time. Well-being, prosperity, opportunity, and accountability. You guys have it memorized to a T, and you guys talk about it every day in your work. I heard Commissioner Carter mention this at the CJCC meeting last week, and it was just really inspiring to hear that. Yesterday at our suburban and city managers meeting, Dr. Paul Allwood mentioned 2 things that were most important to him was our racial equity strategic priority, and stability starts with a place to call it home. He called out during his update, he went straight to 2 of our priorities. So I love to see that our executive team, our managers, our directors are now reciting our strategic priorities and seeing their connectivity in our work countywide. Our county manager was at a meeting with St. Paul Promise neighborhood earlier this week. And again, we talked about, as a county, where do we provide direct services? Where can we partner with you? Where we convene and help influence things? And where do we need to lead courageously? And we talk about these 4 things all the time, but again, we're embedding this within our work. And the last thing is that this service team structure is really helping us build and propel us towards achieving these outcomes and goals. We're breaking down silos, we're improving work culture, we're engaging our employees, and we're communicating to our community that this is what's important to us. At that city managers meeting, one of the city managers for the city of Roseville asked a question. Well, we're doing a lot of things in Roseville. We're building housing affordability, senior housing. We understand that there are a lot of important Ramsey County projects, but what about the projects that are important to the city, and how does that align with the county? And our county manager responded as, your values are our values, and as long as we align, it doesn't matter where it is, whether you're in the city or the suburb, as long as we align in our values and our priorities, we are going to support one another. It's where we disalign or we don't have shared values. It's where this discussion gets a little bit more iffy. So with that said, I'm just really inspired. I'm inspired to hear that there are other stories of why people are attracted to this county. People do look to this strategic plan. I get emails, people refer to it all the time. In terms of next steps, our policy team will be doing road shows amongst all the departments and divisions who want us to present this work and to say that this is a county-wide responsibility and this is the direction that we're moving towards.
Great.
Thank you.
Right?
Mr. Chair, just first, thank you to Elizabeth for the hard work of taking the vision, the comments that come in, and her team, and putting it all together into the updated document. It's never a small feat. It's a big lift in that role. And to see the progress that's been made since 2016 is impressive. Just 4 final points from my end. I hope you see that this document this year responds to the asks from this board to continue to increase intentionality and how we're measuring progress year over year. The first challenge is aligning with the vision, mission, goals. The second is how do we know if we're making progress on these big initiatives that take many years? And the chart at the end is meant to do a lot of that. It also is the first time we realized in the first draft when we looked at it, there just was too many words on every page. It talked about both strategy and tactics and operations. And so we separated the 2, but wanted to keep them in the same document. We're looking for feedback on that as we go forward. We're always trying to tweak it. I think this is a step forward from where we've been. And then the final piece I just want to reiterate from Elizabeth. You will see the performance measures that have been highlighted here embedded in the budget. later to be presented later this year. And you will see every one of these initiatives showing up in the budget later to be presented this year. And that's where that alignment happens between strategy, vision, mission, goals, the budget process, and the performance measurement and strategic plan. And I think we're really realizing that piece. So thank you.
Great. Questions, comments from commissioners? Mary Jo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much to everyone, Elizabeth, you and your whole team on all of this. It's a lot of information, and so thank you for that. I'm trying to get it in a place where we can all track it and know that it's going on. I'll just have a couple of questions. There's a lot of things that I could ask, but I know we're going to see a lot of this in the budget process, so I won't go into too much detail, but maybe generally I would ask the county manager and you, Elizabeth, when we first put out our restructuring of our county, I mean, I know you as the policy director, Ryan, you were all over. I mean, you were in every city, every meeting that anybody asked. Is that what you're thinking might be happening with this second plan, or is that a vision that you mentioned that you would be available to do that? Because I have a lot of organizations, and of course, all my cities would want to hear this at their meetings and things. Is that your intent?
Ryan?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, so I think people get annoyed at how much I actually talk about this plan whenever I'm out. I think it's one of the, I mean, I
agree.
have a
I
key
do
set
too.
of foundational
I do
tenets,
too.
and this is one of them. So part of it is it's part of every day. Elizabeth, can you talk a little bit about your plans to share this document further across the community in the months ahead?
Yeah. Actually, at our city managers meeting yesterday, that was one of their requests, was to get a full page of the service team structure. Then they wanted the names of the deputy county managers and the contact information. So that's one immediate step, is to share that directly with our city managers in every single city in Ramsey County. And of course, there's always an open invitation for us to visit cities, departments, community groups, whatever it may be, to share this work. Our policy planning team is fully prepared to go on the road to do this, because it's important to share our work and for people to understand our values, our priorities, and where they can see alignment and collaboration.
Excellent. That's exciting. And so then, Mr. Chair,
Right, Joe.
along that line, I just in one of the outcomes is that are you starting a Healthy Counties Advisory Council? This is under the housing for houses for all.
Stability starts with.
Yeah, stability starts with a place to call home. A Healthy Counties Advisory Committee was created, and so is that already created, or is that something that other people can be a part of, or is that that big coalition of
Mr.
people
Chair,
that I've been
Commissioners, maybe, I don't know if I got the right name correct in the committee, but I know that there's conversations with the county, the city, and the school district to talk about homelessness. So maybe it's the wrong name, but
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Just the-
This is a name I'm familiar with NACO.
Sure,
but yeah.
Commissioner McGuire. This is still a draft here we're presenting today. We'll clean that up. This has to do with the continuum of care and the strategic work that aligns there with Heading Home Ramsey.
Yeah, okay.
Not to be confused with NACO Healthy Counties.
Okay.
So apologies on that. Good catch. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just, oh, wow, we're really aligned with NACO. So, okay, but that's okay. I am familiar with the Heading Home Ramsey Coalition, and
Yeah.
I've been to several of their meetings, so that's great. So that's good there. And then just a question, because I've been out in my community, as we all have, talking to my business community, and I know that we're working really hard on having diversity in our contractors and subcontractors. And I just want to say it here, and I'll bring it up again, but as we are looking to have dollars spent with SBE contractors for minority and women and in the labor force, I've just heard from people that we may want to be even more specific, and you might be, but that there's some really small companies out there, like 5 and 10 people, that really want to make sure that they get some options. And so we may need to be even more specific about how we call out which minority and women-owned businesses we go to. So it's a small, it's a big deal, a detail that I just want to bring out now, and we can talk more about that. But I've been hearing from very small businesses in our community that want to make sure that they're
able to be contracted with, because we don't contract directly with them, we contract with the bigger contractors, and then they subcontract, and we want to make sure that those subcontractors are required to subcontract with our small companies, and that may be part of the plan already. Okay, good. Well, that's.
All set?
Yeah, so, so that's
Elizabeth,
good.
did you want to comment on that, Rachel's last?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's actually well noted. It's one
Yeah.
of the intentions with, when the CFO and I meet to ensure that when we talk about business inclusion, this theme actually came up during the procurement fair held last fall. And so we'll be very intentional about focusing those areas, but it's a two-way street. We're also just as intentional about ensuring that all of our departments and service teams have a joint responsibility in ensuring that they're doing direct outreach and making connections to those businesses. So it's really about connecting both entities and parties, but at the same time, looking at the process and seeing how we can eliminate or improve barriers that our smaller businesses are having as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two quick comments. First of all, I've been involved in dozens of profits and nonprofits and associations like all of us. We are tied to the goals and making those actionable as much as anybody, and it's just real exciting to see. It's so common to make goals and go put them on a shelf and dust them off a year later. It's really fun to be part of an organization that really is living, breathing its goals. That's great. And then Ryan, I love the comment you made, and I've made it before too, is that you measure what's important. And so the fact that we're measuring all these things, those activities, is really also top notch. So my thanks and appreciation.
And I wanted to reinforce something on that. And Elizabeth, I appreciate kind of the call out about when you're observing the connections, right? Whether it's from board members or leadership in the county. And I just couldn't reinforce more for this to be an actual living, breathing document. We need to make sure that all of us are making those connections whenever we're out in the community. And so I appreciate the call out. I think, to your point, many times a lot of work gets put into these types of documents, but they really aren't living, breathing. I think the biggest part of this, other than the fact that we continue to connect back with whenever we're in the community, is the budget process and where our money follows based on these priorities. So, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Well, I was just going to comment how, when we are out in the community, whether it's at a meeting or just chatting with people more informally, it's noticed what we have done. But what I think is also really interesting is we're here today and we're talking about the strategic plan, but we're always going through transition. It's a living document. And so if we think about a year ago, when we talked about our strategic plan and the differences, the changes that were being made, we thought we were pretty much, we're good, but we're getting better. And I think that's the point. It's something that is changing as we go. It's not one time and done. And so to me, that's probably the most exciting part of this. And, with folks that are the people that are doing the on-the-ground work, it's also important that they understand that just because we did something different last year doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means we're in that growth stage, and we'll continue to learn as we progress with this. So to me, the fact that it's not just one and done is probably one of the most exciting parts of this.
Good, thank you.
Yes, just
Commissioner
quickly.
Mattis Castillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share, it's working when other people repeat your language. And so I was at my CAP board meeting this week, and they have started to adopt some of our language there to include our whole family approach instead of just the two generations. So it's working when other places adopt. So kudos to your team and to all of us for using the language and let it catch throughout the community.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious what our steps forward, because as we read this document and internalize it ourselves, there's opportunities that I see for, tweaking it and everything. And so is it a living, breathing document, as I understand? I mean, I know you want to see strategic goals and benchmarks and outcomes that you're looking for, and they can't always be changing, but I'm just curious what the plan is. And I'll just give an example now of something that I do want to see maybe a little more called out in the plan, is that, as we say, advancing a holistic approach to strengthen youth and families. And I know we've talked about this a lot, and we all know we have a prenatal to 3. And the youngest children are not necessarily called out here. We say children and families with needs, and we know we have to have the entire family approach, as Commissioner Mattis Castillo just said. But we don't really call out even starting prenatally, because when someone reads youth and families, I think they think older kids. So just, I want to challenge us to make sure we, at some point, call that out. I mean, I know I know we do work on it. It's a focus for our county, and just at some place, I'd like to.
County Manager O'Connor.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner McGuire, there will be board workshops on every one of these initiatives throughout the year. I think when Nancy Lee, our Pritzker Fellow, was introduced, was that just last week or 2 weeks ago? Last week. The weeks all come together.
The weeks are very fast, right?
One of the things we mentioned was bringing some of that 0 to 3 work specifically back in a board workshop. So that would be an example. In terms of when this goes live, we go back and hit a magic big button right after this today and say, let's begin to, in some ways, as Commissioner Reinhardt mentioned, we're always implementing against, and this is an iteration of an existing plan. So it's not clear lines of demarcation, but at the same time, this gives us today's from the county manager column is guest columned by Elizabeth. It goes out to the entire organization, and it's an opportunity to say we're reinvigorating and moving forward. So we'll continue the conversation, though, on the points you just raised.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that update. And one more thing, because
Commissioner
Commissioner, thank you, because Commissioner Reinhardt mentioned it, and I heard it in a talk, and I've said it before, but the greatest challenge to being great is when you're good. And I think this county gets a lot of credit because we are good, but we're always pushing for that, being great and being better all the time. So we don't rest on being good. We always are challenged to being great. Thank you.
Good point. Good work, Elizabeth. Really appreciate the effort here and connecting back to, all the way back to our meeting in January, that we had an opportunity as a board to talk these things through, connecting, what we've done in the past and continuing the latest forward. I'm going to jump down a rabbit hole, just a real brief moment here on the stability starts with a place called home and our work in reducing those in the homeless within 6 months of entry into our programs. And I know that there's certain parts of that, but I mean, our foster care system is like the driver in that. And I don't really have a good sense of where other parts of the county, folks might be exiting our programs and being at risk for homelessness, and I know it gets called out as departments actually work on their, their goal or their work plans and coming through the budget here. But, I think McGuire talked about it, Commissioner McGuire talked a little bit up there, but having, once we get to this last column here, the measures of success, I just want to make sure that we're, the pieces that really have the biggest impact in our county on these are called out at the appropriate time or recognized at the appropriate time. And I'm not questioning that it's not going to be a part of the work. But as soon as I seen that, it's like, calling out the whole issue about our foster care system and, what the statistic is, but like 30% of those kids are on the street almost the day they age out of foster care. All right, any other comments? Again, thank you, Elizabeth, to you and your whole team here, and Ryan, we'll look forward to connecting this back to the budget when you come forward in June, July, or August.
August 6th.
We're going to give you to August, huh?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. County Connections. County Manager O'Connor.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'm going to let Elizabeth's presentation and the great work she did stand as County Connections today, and we look forward to celebrating one of the many outgrowths of the strategic plan, the Progressive Internship Program with St. Paul College and Metro State at 11:30 today.
Perfect.
And
Commissioner Reinhardt.
legislative update. Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
yeah.
Just,
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They were on break last week out in their communities, working hard though. A lot of them had town hall meetings, and I was in meetings with many of them actually as they were out in the community now, because they weren't in session formally, but they were still working hard. But they're back in formal session now. They're They'll start long floor sessions, process the bills that are going to be coming through, and these are the big omnibus bills. Today, the House is going to take up the omnibus jobs bill, which is chaired by our own legislator, Tim Mahoney, who, as I said, chairs that meeting. So this bill covers jobs training, related workforce training for many of the nonprofits that we work with, like Ujama Place and the YWCA, and includes paid family leave provisions and energy, climate, and telecommunications policy bills. So there will be a lot of, that's a lot of bills in that omnibus jobs bill. So they're also going to take up the omnibus education bill today. So there's a lot of work. They'll be there a long time today. Tomorrow is Wednesday. They'll take up the omnibus health and human services bill. This is all, this is in the House. And so once the House passes their bills, then the Senate will need to pass their bills, and then they'll go into conference committee. And there's like 4 weeks left before they their last day, which is May 20th. And so they'll be going late, I'm sure, both today and tomorrow. We've, of course, Jennifer O'Rourke, who's here, and Claudia Brewington, Nick Riley are there will be there long hours this week for sure. And so if you have any questions for them, or if you need to be down at the Capitol for any other information or any testimony, they're down there. You can let them know that you're there, and they'll can help you, connect with the legislators. And one of the things that does work is when they're in long sessions, we can pull them off the House floor and the Senate floor and then talk to them there. So it is a good time to catch up with them. Also, just to let you know that Representative Angie Craig's office has reached out to us, and now Representative McCollum's office has also reached out to us to get input about the counties and their transportation agendas. And so Commissioner Ortega worked with staff to get a response back almost immediately to Congresswoman Craig's office, and now Congresswoman McCollum has asked for that same information. When we were out in D.C., Commissioners Carter, Reinhardt, Mattis, Castillo, and I all met with the Congresswoman, and they were excited to just stay as connected as they can with all of us and all of our issues. So this was a great example of how we can come to them with our information that really helps them as they're making their policy decisions. So good job on everyone staying connected.
Thank you. Outside board and committee reports. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple of things that I wanted to just mention. One, we had a Soul Smart workshop dealing with solar energy last week, and so it was a webinar that went out and talked about the different programs. I think they had about 40 people in the room, and many more on the webcast. I believe it's rebroadcast as well, but we had just learned that Ramsey County had achieved the silver status for SoulSmart, and really looking forward to being at the gold by the end of this year. I think we can do it. And we have been a leader, obviously, in environmental issues and in solar energy as well. So it's an exciting time, and hopefully other communities will look at the certification with SoulSmart and the assistance that we get when we're undertaking projects. Also wanted to mention that I attended last night, 2 things actually last night. One was the 40th anniversary of the Friends of the Suburban Ramsey County Libraries. It was great to see Norm Vinnis and Meta Fridley and the work that they had done, and how it has progressed to the point that they have a goal of getting 1,000 members, and they're at almost 700 right now. By the end of, well, actually, I think it's over a 3-year period. They want to be up to 1,000. That group is amazing, and what they've done to enhance what we do within our Ramsey County libraries has been really just fun to see in the different events that they do. And Mary Jo, Commissioner McGuire is the liaison to the library board, so she may want to add to that. Also, last evening, I attended a meeting of the Neighborhood Concerned Citizens group. It's regarding water gremlin and the emissions. and they meet. Actually, we had a special meeting last night because the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Minnesota Department of Health wanted to come out and give an update on the work that's being done there and the monitoring and so forth. It is very clear this is an incredibly organized group, and it's great to see how the neighbors have pulled together to really try to figure out the different aspects of what happened there. And it's not just about them. It is about what is best for our state, for our county, and especially when it comes to the TCE. So it was well attended and something that everybody can learn from as far as the toxicity, I'm not going to remember, volatile, VOCs anyhow, that are bad for you, and how we can deal with those. But I am very excited about the legislation about the potential TCE ban, and I think that there are some iterations of that would phase it in, but it is something that is incredibly important. I've mentioned before that at the federal level, and Congresswoman McCollum has been really insistent on moving this forward, but the TCE, which is just really toxic, that they had that on the list and were on the path at the federal level, on the path to banning it. And then when the 2016 election happened, it was set aside. So hopefully we'll get that back so that people understand just how important those protections are, and that's what it's about. It's about protection. Rush line, very briefly, we had the Policy Advisory Committee and then the full task force meeting, and we are moving forward and getting more and more input and really trying to address the issues as we're going forward. A lot of vibrant communication activities happening in every aspect of how we can reach out to people and get input. I think there are a lot of other things that were going on, but I will end with that.
Thank you. Commissioner Mattis Castillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few quick updates I just wanted to share. I attended the Midway Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Forum, and it was really heartening to hear that they, as a business community, are concerned both about our workforce as well as our homeless situation. So there was a lot of conversation about how do we ensure that we have affordable housing in the Midway and in our region, and how they can be a partner with us to address our growing homeless population. So really hearing that the community is involved and concerned about the same issues that we are prioritizing. I also wanted to give an update on the Rice Larpenter Coalition. Great work going on there. Really working to transform that Rice Larpenter Lake McCarran's neighborhood that has been under-resourced for a very long time. It's very exciting to have 3 commissioners actively involved in that coalition, as well as the mayors of Maplewood and Roseville and our city council president from St. Paul. Thinking about, and lots of folks looking at how, when we have these edges of communities, how we truly can work together. And so we have a series of events, and this is business community, neighbors, as well as elected officials actively involved. But we have some really important upcoming events. To start off with, this Saturday is the cleanup. There's a citywide cleanup in Rice, in St. Paul, as well as Roseville and Maplewood. But we are coordinating a site so folks can meet at the Caribou Coffee that is providing free coffee and cookies in the morning, and then we'll clean up the area. So very excited to do that. And then also our Public Works Department is hosting an open house at the Community Schools of Excellence to talk about our transit routes, which is critical to the success of the redevelopment and prosperity for our communities. So really exciting to have the full EGCI team involved in this as well, to say we need to make sure transit is an investment well done, and safety, as well as our business community. So that open house is on the 30th, so next Tuesday, 5:30 to 7:30. And then the Capital Regional Watershed District is doing great work ensuring that we have clean water, and they are engaging the community with a series of stakeholder meetings for the community to come together to give input on how they do their work. And that's beginning May 6th, and so you can look through that throughout our community. So they're doing great work there, and a good partner for us about how we're using water, how we're preserving water, and making sure it's safe. And then last thing, I just wanted to share that effective tomorrow, I have been appointed to the Met Council Land Use Committee. So really a great opportunity to oversee our work and connectedness as well on the Met Council.
Thanks. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations, Commissioner Manis Castillo, on that. A lot going on last week. Give a shout out to our superintendent of Roseville area schools who has these breakfast meetings, and I'm going to encourage all of our superintendents in the area to do these with all this. He invites all of the cities, the county, the legislators, and we have a conversation about what's going on, and we learn about what's going on with our schools. So that happened last Wednesday. Then we had a TAB meeting, a Transportation Advisory Board meeting, and we always do such great work at these meetings, and I'm just going to give you a sense of the informational briefings that we've been getting, because any of you can access these, but if you want them in any of your communities, it's just amazing. We heard about regional employment and transportation flows, the regional solicitation before and after studies, so we know, sort of the where that solicitation, who's it reaching and who's really getting things from that. The after study of the bus rapid transit, they did an A-line. We had already seen that, but they presented that to the entire transportation board. And then we had 2018 regional solicitation feedback and 2020 regional solicitation schedule. So we're all about getting community input and actually input from from everyone sitting at the table, sitting at the Transportation Advisory Board, to make sure that these solicitations that go out to all of our communities, that they're getting to what we need to get done within the transportation system. So I'm just really proud of our TAB board that we've been really asking for so much more information, and we're getting it. So that was great. And then the library board met on last Wednesday evening. We recognized again some longtime employees that I have to give a shout out to. Gail Erickson, 44 years of service to the library system. Oh my goodness. And then Linda Larson, 16 years, which is a lot also. But we just have such dedicated employees in our entire county, but definitely the library system. And they always give gold cards out to the very, very dedicated volunteers. And they gave out 8 gold cards to other volunteers. So we couldn't do it without our volunteers. And then it goes to the Friends anniversary that Commissioner Reinhardt mentioned, and that was last night. That was an amazing event. Lots of people came from long ago to really celebrate the Roseville, the library system, the Ramsey County library system, and then the Friends, the Friends of Libraries, who have just given so much support to our library system. So that was excellent. And then we had our annual report to the state for libraries, and our Ramsey County library system, and specifically Roseville, continues to be the library in Roseville continues to be the most used library in the state. We think bordering on the country, because we have a very well-used library system in this whole state. So we're very excited about that work. Actual books being checked out is maybe down a little, but internet usage is up. And then if we just look at people that come into our libraries, because of all of the programming that we do and all of the resources that we provide at our libraries, we just get really amazing traffic at all of our libraries. But we continue to be the most well-used system in the state. So that's exciting. And Commissioner Manis Castillo mentioned a bit about the Community Action Partnership. I'm happy to be back on that. I'm actually going to be on the Finance Committee now. Commissioner Manis Castillo wants to be on the program, and I say Services Committee, but it's the Program and Evaluation Committee, and I'm going to be on the Finance Committee for CAP. So that's our Community Action Program. So that's good. And then Extension met, and we heard from our Master Gardener program, and oh my goodness, I just want to encourage everyone to set up pollinator-friendly gardens, and it's good, provides habitat for small rodents and things that are good feed for eagles and for other flying, other of our flying residents. But anyway,
It's about bees.
We got
It's
a
about
pollinator
bees. I
program
know.
and we got a rodent
I know,
program.
we got
All right.
a rodent program. Well, they were saying that the pollinator-friendly gardens also provide, yes, and then.
They're separate, right?
They're separate, but they do, right. They're pollinator-friendly, right. And then, then we got into Habitat for Eagles and,
I don't know
yeah.
what public health is
So,
going to
yeah.
have to say about that one.
But yes, we can clarify that. But there was a lot of, yes, we really need our open spaces and our gardens for all of these things.
Well,
Yeah.
and I just want to say, I mean, when I've been planting a pollinator garden,
Yeah.
but you don't have, there's different ways to do it. I actually have mine elevated
Mm-hmm.
on an old picnic table, and I have put things up there because I do have problems with things that go into the ground. Somehow they get eaten. So anyway, but it's really fun to do, and you can get so much information about the types of flowers, the colors make a difference, the height of them makes a difference, and it's so fun to see that and to watch as it grows and the bees that are there. I remember, I will say this, I remember the first time I did this, and I'm kind of afraid of bees, and so I was like, how's this gonna work? And so I'm out and I'm watering, and I look, and I go, oh my gosh, a bee. I was like, wait, no, that's what we're supposed to be doing here, are bees.
We are supposed to have bees.
And it was just, I learned a lot about bees and pollinators, and I'm not afraid because it's something that is really good in your backyard. So,
Yes. So yes, it's two
Commissioner
different things,
McGuire.
but it is about planting in open spaces for all sorts of
Yes.
reasons. One is bees and pollinators, the other is providing habitat for things. And so, yes, they combined them, but yes, it's all good. And then we had a AMC at our board meeting, Association of Minnesota Counties, and we were able to get updates from our legislative partners, and it was a good meeting. We also had Commissioner Margaret Anderson Kelleher came from our Commissioner of Transportation for the state, came and had a really good conversation with these board members from all over the state about the transportation issues that we're having, and how we talked about the governor's plan, but also what counties are feeling about that. It was a great plan, and I'll just say that we thought it was good to probably at all of our board meetings to have a commissioner come and talk, because it's good for them, and it's good for the governor's office to hear from counties, and it's good for us counties to have a voice into the executive branch. So I think we're going to start doing that more as an AMC. And then we have already talked about the Friends meeting. Oh, have to say that Roseville set up their own solar panels on their buildings last night. They pulled a switch and turned on the solar panels on their in their city complex, city buildings complex. They have it on their public works buildings, and they're going to hopefully generate great solar power. And I met the gentleman that does some of our solar power, and he's like, we're ready to do more in Ramsey County, so we can be looking at that.
Okay,
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner,
I just want to.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
One other thing, as far as solar, Commissioner Huffman and I attended, it was last year, I think, about how you can do for the solar gardens that are not on rooftops, the pollinator plantings there, and how it is a dual positive impact. Okay, now I'm done.
Commissioner Huffman.
Mr. Chair, I just like everything I've heard. I had nothing I could add.
Well said. All right, no other business. 11:30, we have our Progressive Internship Program Celebration. That will be at Metropolitan State University in the Founders Hall. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.